And also early education is, you know, last year they finally got the kindergarten, full day kindergarten, and now this session, the one that's coming up, they're going to work on pre-K, voluntary, you know, for 4-year-olds, because they've just found that the earlier you get kids thinking and comfortable in the school environment, the better they're going to do through their career in school.
We wanted diversion programs to keep kids from getting into trouble and things like that, and we're now 4 generations into a problem that we were trying to address back then, and that we think back sometimes, and it's a shame that we didn't know then what we know now. But of course, that
it's not how it works.
Great. It doesn't work that way. So, you know, and I pushed early on for I remember the Equal Rights Amendment was a big issue when I first ran, and I pushed for human rights initiatives and empowering young people. Some of my early bills were for 18-year-old drinking and decriminalization of marijuana, and I feel a little differently about that today than I did back then. But I was sort of seen as a spokesman for young people.
And didn't you sponsored the hate crimes legislation?
Early on, Manny and I sponsored bills forbidding discrimination based on sexual orientation, and also hate crimes legislation, where we enhanced penalties for crimes which, you know, when you commit a violent act against someone because of their color or ethnicity or gender or sexual orientation, you're really attacking more than that person. That's really an attack on society, and potentially everyone, and especially everyone of that particular class. And so we believe that needed to be punished more severely, just because of the societal impact. And we pushed for that for years, and it's been successful lately. Fortunately, a lot of people continued that battle, and I was happy to see
that happen. You'll be lobbying this session, and you'll be lobbying, among other people, for UNM, but I was wondering if you could take a moment to tell us your long history with UNM and why it's so natural that you would lobby for them. And I want you to tell a little bit about the wonderful thing you do. I know you wouldn't mention it unless somebody brought it up, but your work with the preemies, the premature babies.
I grew up in the neighborhood of UNM, and where the dormitories are now used to be a golf course, and as a kid I would go hunt golf balls lost in the tall grass and sell them back to the golfers and make money. And I got 2 degrees from UNM, and my brothers and sisters all went to school there. One sister worked in the fine arts department. My mom went back to school and got a degree in computer science there and worked at the computing center, and that's how she was able to support herself upon her retirement. My father, when he died, he was at UNM Hospital, having suffered a major heart event, and they were able to keep him alive long enough for my mom to get back from a family vacation to be with him before he died. Well, you can imagine what that means to a family when that happens.
Means, yeah.
And so I love UNM, and it's meant so much to my family in all those ways. I mentioned earlier I'd sat in the back of the room and got some money for the newborn intensive care unit, and it's ironic that years later I'm a cuddler, and we have a program at UNM where people like me come in for a couple hours. I work on Thursday nights and hold the little babies. Most of them are in there because they're low birth weight babies and probably born before their full gestation. And I don't know any of the technical terms, but the preemies is a good way to think of it. Anyway, these little tiny 1 and 2 pound babies. And of course, it's really important for them to have that human touch. And UNM is a university that serves students from all over the state. But the hospital really is the safety net hospital for a lot of the state in a lot of areas, including difficult babies. And so lots of times the families are hundreds of miles away and can't be there with the kids. And so the Cuddler program is really an important one and has been going on there for a long, long time and is a model for programs around the nation. But it's one of the things that keeps me the right size. And when I've got one of those little babies in my hands, all my problems just disappear.
Yeah.
troubles I've got seem really silly.
Speaking of the human touch, we're almost done with our time today, and I'd like for the viewers and us to look at this little piece of tape again with Bruce King and Manny Aragon talking a little about your career as you decided to step down from being an elected public official. So let's just take a moment and look at Governor King and Senator Aragon.
Tommy will never leave the people. He's like me. He's always very interested in the well-being of all of the citizens, particularly the middle-class citizens of New Mexico and those that have no representation.
Thank you for your friendship and your counsel and your mentoring, and for all the support that you've given over the years, and especially for all the kindness that you've shown to people and the positive contributions you've made to New Mexico and to me personally and my family. Thank you.
I would like to thank you particularly for always coming up to the governor's office and saying, Governor, I think we could do a better job with the amount of funds we have in education and health and welfare and many things. So again, I just want to say thanks to you, Tommy, and don't worry about that little bit grin in your beard. You're still a very young man, and you just keep up the good work.
Well, now Governor King is reminding you, even though you have a touch of gray in your beard, you're still a young man, and in just the few minutes we have left, tell us what you're working on now for the future, what you see in your future.
You know, I've enjoyed lobbying, and I'm sure there will always be work for me to do in some way in helping people. The thing that touched me about that was I believe those are two great leaders, Bruce King and Manny, and their styles were different, and both are still around, but they're not in their positions at the legislature anymore. And the legislature has some leaders that are continuing, but it has a whole new crop of leaders. I think it's going to be really interesting to watch the legislature. I think there'll be a whole new style and a new mood there, and it'll be really interesting to see how it settles in its new configuration. It is a family, and there are some new members of the family, and some of the other members of the family have moved on, and so it's going to be a little different family dynamic. I think it's really going to be interesting to watch. I'm concerned about the plight of children in New Mexico, from those little bitty babies to the older ones, and I hope that I'll be able to continue to work in some way promoting kids. I serve on the board of Camp Sierra Blanca, which is a youth detention facility that helps turn boys' lives around.
And education, are you pleased with the way education is going in the state?
You know, I love some of the exciting things that are happening. I know most about UNM, but medical advances, engineering advances, the lottery scholarship has allowed so many young New Mexicans to get a college education. It's been a great thing for this state. I'm really happy about it. I had no idea the impact it would have. People like Senator Sanchez and Lucky Varela and others who fostered this from the beginning really did a great thing for this state. And I think the pre-K and all those initiatives are great. I think we really have to pay more attention to education and really pay attention to devoting sufficient resources to it.
And do you have a watchword for us for this upcoming 60-day session?
Well, it'll be fun to see what the agents of change bring along. You know, the governor has had his sort of honeymoon session already, and his work will be a little different than it's been. And I don't know about particularly controversial issues. Money is always a big deal, but I think how they settle in and just watching how this new family moves on to its next level will be great fun.
Well, I'm going to be watching too, because our office for years was in the Senate Radio Gallery, and we've always felt part of the Senate,
Yep.
and I love the whole legislative process. So I want to thank you for being with us today. And our guest today is Tom Rutherford, and we can say former senator, former Bernalillo County Commissioner, but forever a dedicated New Mexican and really a friend to humanity. I don't want to make you feel embarrassed, but you've done a lot, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much.
And I'd like to thank you, our viewers, for being with us today on the report from Santa Fe. Thanks.